Coming to you from the TheEoNProject studios, perched high atop the banks of the majestic Blackstone River. Greetings from the jewel of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay.
That's some good music.
You like that music, don't you?
That's wonderful music.
Yeah, you know, because I'm quite the creative soul.
You made that yourself.
I did, with the help of a few friends of mine. It's, it's good.
Welcome to the TheEoNProject,
Welcome.
where we scrape the nether regions of the world to bring you barnacles of wonderfulness.
Oh, did you just make that up, or were you thinking
I
about
thought
that?
about that last night as I was trying to go to bed.
Did you? It really rolled off the tongue.
It didn't really. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah, speaking of barnacles, do you like seafood?
Not really.
You know, we live in a seafood haven here.
Seafood, yes. Seafood area, yeah.
Seafood galore. You don't do the shellfish?
No, I'm actually allergic to shellfish. So,
Are you?
Yeah, so don't send me any in the mail.
So if I took a scallop and rubbed it across your forehead, what would
I have
happen?
to go to the hospital.
Oh, boy.
I got to stab myself with an EpiPen.
Don't do that.
So last week, welcome to the TheEoNProject.
Yep. Welcome again.
Where we discuss all manner of things related to all manner of topics in a lighthearted fashion
That's right.
in order to bring you, as I said, barnacles of wonderfulness.
Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about last week, or the last show, some of our international listeners.
Yeah, we got some more.
We did,
the
and
meantime.
so the Chile folks didn't listen again, so they must have been turned off.
The Chile farmer had to go get his crops.
Maybe it didn't translate well into Chilean Spanish.
No, probably not.
But I did notice we had some a listen from the Republic of Korea,
Really?
the Korean Peninsula.
How cool is that?
Just one listen though,
Oh, just one.
which means they clicked
Maybe
on.
it was Kim Jong-un,
Oh,
and he wanted to see what we're doing over here.
I don't think that's the Republic of Korea though. I think.
Oh,
that-
no, you mean South Korea.
Yeah.
Not the Republic of...
Oh,
what do they
maybe-
call it? No,
maybe.
the Republic of
People's
Korea.
Republic of
That's
Korea, isn't
correct.
it?
It's North Korea, yeah.
Oh my God.
So maybe it was him.
Could
Maybe
be.
he's listening into this program as we speak.
Oh.
Well, anyway.
That'd
so
be
yeah.
interesting.
No, I saw we actually had some listens in Russia as well.
Oh, we did?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that
Yep,
one. I wonder if it was
listens-
Maria.
Maria?
Yeah, the ASMR girl. Remember I told you about her?
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah.
She heard that there was a free plug for her hypnotism talk or whatever it is that she does.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that part.
So anyway, I wanted to tell you about an experiment that I've been conducting
Okay.
over the past couple of weeks. It's an experiment in underwear.
Ooh, like different types of
Yeah,
underwear?
so here's what happened. So for many years, as long as I can remember, and I'm not a young man.
Nope.
But I'm not an old man either. But for as long as I can remember, I've been wearing boxer shorts. Just boxer shorts.
Okay.
Nothing else. Well, I wear other clothes too. But as far as undergarments go.
Yeah.
So I decided a few weeks ago I was going to switch up my routine, and I was going to purchase some exotic underwears to
Exotic, like
participate in.
you know, like banana hammock type underwear?
No, not like the thong.
Oh.
But more like a boxer brief. So I decided that I made the switch.
Yep.
And I have to. I'm going to report the results to you now.
Please do.
If that's okay.
I'm on the edge of my seat, literally.
So I feel that I'm going to go back to boxer shorts.
Really?
Yes, and the reason is because I feel way too constricted. I feel all tight.
You know, it takes a little getting used to, but here's the issue. So years ago, I myself made the switch.
Oh.
I was growing up, I was the tighty whitey fella, and then
Who wasn't?
And then I switched as I got a little older. I switched to the boxer shorts. But the problem I ran into with the boxer shorts is that they're too loose.
Yeah.
And when you wear them under a pair of
bunch up.
clothing or jeans of sorts, some sort of pantalones, they kind of bunch up on you.
Okay. So you went to boxer briefs.
I went to the boxer briefs, and I will never go back.
Well, they feel silky. So you feel like you're doing something wrong.
No, not silky. Just get the cotton ones.
No, I get the silkies. Because now I feel like, like a French prostitute. I'm all gussied up. I have silkiness.
Well, that's your problem. You're buying silk drawers. Just go get the
They're not real silk. It's poor man's silk.
just get the cotton smalls. You know the
Smalls.
and you'll be fine. You know, I get the tagless comfort brand.
Oh.
You know?
Now that we've discussed our undergarments, I want to tell you we should tease the topic for today.
Well, let's tease it, but then I need some help with something too. But
Okay,
go
well,
ahead.
let's tease the topic because people who are listening, are going to say, what the heck, I'm not listening to this anymore.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be discussing a couple of different things. We have a special guest that we're going to be speaking with.
We do.
It's actually a follow-up guest to a previous show that we did about haunted Indiana.
That's right.
We're going to get to that. And then before that, we're going to discuss our experiences with paranormal and the paranormal investigation field, which we have experience in.
That's correct.
We're going to discuss the paranormal group that we were in, how it started, some of the cases that we did, and kind of how it got to the point where it did. And then we're going to get to our special guest and discuss their haunting in Indiana.
That's correct. Well, I recently had a paranormal event as well, that an unexplained event that maybe you can help me with.
Let's see.
And it's literally scared the boxer briefs off me.
Oh, no.
So for the past, I don't know, with the past year or so, I've been, I've been experiencing and taking part in a Asian massage, if you will.
Yeah, okay. The legitimate kind?
So here's the thing, right? So you always have that negative connotation of the Asian massage parlor. Where
Why
you
do
go
you gotta
in
be
there.
Asian? You can't go to like a Ukrainian
No,
massage?
you could, but the Asian massage parlor has a reputation of doing different things besides the body massage.
Yes, they do.
So I stumbled upon, not too long ago, an Asian massage parlor and believe it or not, and of all places, the local shopping mall.
Ooh.
And I don't know if this happens anywhere else around the world or in the country.
It probably does.
But this particular storefront massage venue is right by the main entrance to the Sears and Roebuck.
Oh.
Right?
So you could shop for Craftsman tools and
could.
also get a rub and tug.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it goes that far, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I walked by one day and I said, I always enjoy the massage. It makes you feel good,
sure
relaxes you,
that does,
the hot oils and all that stuff. So I gave it a shot. I walked in, I was hooked from the get-go, right? So when I go in there, I don't converse with anybody.
We've discussed this.
Just go in there,
do your business.
You go in a little booth there. There's a sign right on the wall that says "Leave on all underwear," so you don't take your underwear off.
They don't want you getting stark naked.
Nope, in the mall, they don't want you getting naked. However, so anyway, I've done this a few times with, no problems. Mm-hmm. Limited issues. So this last time I went.
Limited issues.
What's today? Saturday. So I went a few days ago because I needed a massage. I had hurt myself. I pulled a muscle in my back.
Oh.
Yep.
So instead of going to a physical therapist or a doctor, you decided to go to the Asian massage parlor.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
I want to get it rubbed out, right? So I go in there. The usual routine occurs. I go in there, leave my underwear on, get on the table, right? And you know how I get face down. So you know how the massage table's like that little thing you put your face in?
Yeah, so you don't suffocate.
So there's a little hole there,
Right.
so you can get your face right down in there, right? So usually I close my eyes, I just put my face there, and I enjoy my massage. So she comes in, starts working me over.
Was there any dialogue, or did she just start going at it?
No, they don't even say anything. Like
They don't ask you what kind of
she just make a
massage.
little noise.
Oh.
And shows me the timer, because you set the time, you gotta tell them how long you want to be in there for, right? So she's doing her thing, and what they do is, which I was quite surprised by, is that they climb all over you like a spider monkey.
Oh yeah, they climb on top.
They jump on you, they wrap their legs around you, they whack you.
Get out of here.
I swear to God.
They whack you.
So
This is a family show.
that's not a problem up until this moment, where suddenly I hear the noise of what sounded like a hooven foot.
Cloven foot?
A cloven. But like the sound of like a clacky shoe.
Like a clip clop?
A clip clop, but when you drop a clip, like if it's on your foot and you take the footwear off and it makes the noise,
Yes.
like it drops to
it
the
drops
floor.
Shoe. Yes.
So clearly she just took her shoes off.
Oh no.
It's at this moment that she climbs on my head and starts like giving me a massage, right? And I'm like,
She climbed on your head.
I was tempted to.
Do you want to see what's going on?
Well, no. See, here's what happened. I made the mistake of opening my eyes when she got back on the floor.
Okay.
And I gazed upon her unsheathed feet. And me and feet.
And we
right?
know how you feel about feet.
I don't like feet, and I have a problem with them.
Yes.
I despise them in all forms. So it ruined my experience because I opened my eyes.
Were they not attractive?
And I
feet?
saw raptor claws wandering around the table.
Why'd you take her shoes off?
Well, I don't know if she probably didn't want to kick me in the head with her wooden-soled shoe.
I thought what you were going to say was she was going to climb on and start trampling all over you like you were a bunch of grapes in Italy or something like that.
No, she didn't do that.
She didn't climb and start walking
Thank
on
God.
you.
Thank God.
That would have been worse.
I wouldn't have wanted those daggers.
So did it ruin the entire experience for you?
It did. I couldn't relax after that. I was on edge the whole time. And when the timer went off, she goes, "You want more time?" And I said, "No, I'm done. Thank you."
Well, that's a wonderful story.
And I left.
So are you not going to go back there, or is it you're going to go?
I will, but I
someplace
got to give it some time. So maybe they can get a new.
Or just close your eyes next time and don't open them.
They can get a new round of ladies in there.
No matter what you hear, don't open your eyes.
I won't open them. I'll just.
Well, that leads me to the
Imagine.
next. That's a great story.
Thank you.
That leads me to a news story that I want to share before we get into the paranormalities.
Oh.
So, I bet you've been wondering, all these years, what has happened to Dukes of Hazzard star Tom Wopat?
I actually just was thinking the other day, what's he been up to?
You were thinking that, right? So, This comes from Fox News, believe it or not, one of the most trusted news sources in the world.
He was my favorite Duke boy, by the way.
You liked him better than he was Luke.
He was Luke Duke.
You liked him better than Bo?
Well, yeah, I mean, his name was Luke Duke.
Bo Duke. Luke Duke. Anyway, so here's the headline. Dukes of Hazzard, Tom Wopat, pleads not guilty to indecent assault and drug possession charges.
Oh.
Which drug possession is never funny. However, the other part is kind of funny, so I'm going to read that part. So Tom Wopat, one of the stars of the 1980s hit TV show Dukes of Hazzard, was arrested on drug battery and indecent assault charges in Massachusetts, where we reside. Well, I reside. On Wednesday night. This was this past Wednesday. He pleaded not guilty on Thursday to grabbing the buttocks of a female member of the cast in a musical he was supposed to appear in. So he grabbed a buttock without permission.
Oh.
And made some sort of lewd comment.
He did.
And was subsequently arrested.
Was it a double-handed
It doesn't
grab?
say if he used both hands or if he made any kind of noises or anything like that. It just says that he grabbed the buttock.
Well, his career is probably not going in the direction that he
At what point do you in your life
Yeah.
just say, forget it, I don't care about social norms or behaviors. I'm just going to start grabbing buttocks when I feel like it. Because that just seems odd to me that someone would just say at that point,
Well, maybe
I'm
that's
just going to do whatever I want no matter what.
Maybe that says a lot about who I am as a person, because I grabbed my first buttocks probably, I think, when I was like in 4th or 5th grade.
Is the statute of limitations run out?
And we were at there was a circus going on. I think it was a Ringling Brothers circus.
Oh.
And it was a crowded lobby. Everybody was on the way out, and the hottest girl in school, I won't mention her name at the time,
Hottest 4th grader ever.
and somebody dared me to grab her buttocks in the crowded area. And I did.
You did it.
I grabbed a handful, and I was a little guy, so
assaulted
I
someone.
blended right into the crowd, into a guy's trousers, and I wandered away.
I was going to say, did you grab it and then run, or did you wait for the reaction?
Nope.
Or what did you do?
Well, I saw the reaction, but from a distance, so I grabbed it.
Did she know it was you?
No, she was looking around frantically, trying to figure out who
She
it
probably
was.
thought it was an old man.
There was an old guy with a fedora right next to her. I think it might
Anyone
have
with
been him.
anyone with a fedora.
Actually, it could have been 4th, 5th grade, something
Someone,
like that.
someone who was suspicious.
That's a young age to start grabbing buttocks.
That's a young age for your first assault.
Yeah.
So you just graduated for it after that.
I did.
Oh. Well, anyway, so that's our. I think that's the extent of our foray into the nonsensical world of us before we get into the topics of the day. And I know some people like it, some people don't, but we do it anyway because we don't care.
No, definitely not. I think it's fun.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to discuss the paranormal, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to start by just telling a little bit of telling the audience a little bit about our experiences with the paranormal as far as investigations go, because we do have some experience in that. We had an investigative group. We investigated several cases, if you will, of supposed paranormal activity. Some more successful than others. And then but more than that, we were able to gain a glimpse into that world because it's an entire subculture of people,
Right.
in the paranormal world as far as investigations go. And a lot of the listeners maybe who watch the shows on TV or who have never been involved with that might not know that there's a lot that goes on there. There's a lot of interpersonal relationships. There's a lot of infighting, jealousies, you name it.
It's an interesting world, to say the least.
Yeah. So it all started for us many years ago, just with and not to get into, this isn't going to be a foray into our young lives because we've done that before. We'll probably do it again at some point. But so basically the whole paranormal world started for us when we decided that we were going to get into investigations. And prior to starting our own investigative group, we actually participated in a couple of investigations with other established teams.
That's true.
And what we found was, and the reason that we started our own group was basically that there was a whole lot of nonsense going on out there with regard to the paranormal. And this was around 2008, 2009.
Yep.
And so the Ghost Hunter show was big on TV. It was the whole big, the paranormal TV show phenomenon was getting big. So everybody wanted to have their own team.
So I will give Ghost Hunters the props in that regard, where they were, obviously they were some groups before that, but they the ones that kind of brought it to the mainstream. They had the TV show.
Right.
And what happened was, a strange thing occurred, is that all these other groups that started popping up after the popularity of the TV show thought that they had to do everything as the TV show took place.
They would do it the exact same way. And then it actually bears some explanation. So Jason and I, without getting into too much of our personal lives, have backgrounds in investigations and in law enforcement, and I know we've talked about this before, but we've basically done criminal investigations both on the private side and then the public service for many years prior to that, and continues to this day. And so when we were working with these groups, so to speak, working with them, going on an investigation with them, we would see what they were doing and kind of poke some holes in how they were approaching things and how they talked to people and how they went about conducting their investigations. And that we looked at it and said, this is something that we can improve upon and make it more of a professional, if you will, a professional investigation. So that's basically where we wanted to go and where we started it off. And so we held a recruiting drive.
That's true. We did. We went to the local library.
Yep.
We rented a room.
We rented it. Was free.
Actually, it wasn't rented, but we did sign up for the room.
We signed up for the room. We had a we had a PowerPoint presentation.
Yep.
Of how we were going to approach things, and the turnout was immense. I think we had 3 people come.
We did.
We had 3 people show up, and basically we laid it out. This is how we're going to do things. We laid it out that we're going to do things in a very professional manner, mostly because we wanted to lend some credibility to it, where we had found that there was not a lot of credibility in that field.
And when we say professional, we mean joking around. What I mean by that is we joke amongst each other, but when we are dealing with a particular client or somebody who is interested in investigation, we try to be as professional as possible.
Mostly because, and as you could tell from speaking to people who have experienced the paranormal, this is it can be a very stressful experience, and they don't want a bunch of jokesters coming out there and first of all messing up their house, and secondly giving them a whole bunch of bunk about what they're finding and stuff like that. So we tried to standardize our approach, and we had a method of operations and standard operating procedures, and we had manuals and everything, and it was going great.
We had waiver forms that people sign. Yeah,
it was going very well, and we had a few investigations, and maybe one day we'll talk about them in depth about what it is, what the case was, what we found. I mean, I still have our notes and junk like that.
And that's the thing about it. Like prior to getting into actually going out and checking out some of these locations, I always kind of believed in these sort of things. Never personally experienced anything of my own,
right?
Up until that point, and then there were a few things that definitely were unexplained, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first actual case that we did was a relative of ours that was experiencing paranormal activity in her home, and we went there, and it was a very old home. It was in Connecticut, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
And we experienced stuff the very first time.
Yeah.
Very first night doing it. And as I said, we had a lot of experience in real investigations, and we're not easily startled by things, and we were startled by things. So I think that was the fuel for the fire, and when we kept going, we did a bunch of cases, a bunch of investigations, and everything was going very, very well. Mm-hmm. However, we had some experiences with some people.
Sure.
That kind of soured us on the entire paranormal investigation field.
And it just goes to show the greater point that we're talking about. For some reason, and I don't know why, but and I guess that happens with sociologically within any group. There tends to be there can be infighting, and there can be some jockeying for position and things of that sort. So that happens within the paranormal field as well.
Especially when they think that there's some sort of monetary gain or publicity to be had, and because back then, everybody was getting a show. There was a new show every 2 minutes, and we had experience with this too, where film crews were coming out and producers were calling, and everyone was trying to get on TV, and that leads to a number of things, like you said about infighting and stuff like that. But it also leads to people being tempted to fabricate evidence and exaggerate things, and that just, once you start having to question someone's credibility, you lose everything. You don't have any legs to stand on at that point. Mm-hmm. So we had a situation within our own group where we had some, I don't know how you would classify it, but we had some people who wanted to splinter off and create their own group. They didn't like how Jay and I were running things, and basically there was a coup. There was a coup d'etat.
There was, but it wasn't like they just said, because like grown men, you think would say, "Hey, listen, I don't want to be in this group anymore.
I don't like the way you're doing something.
I want to go start my own group." Well, then you know what? You're not beholden to me for any reason. Just get up and go do your own thing. But unfortunately, there was some deception and some things going on behind the scenes that we didn't come to find out about until later.
Yeah.
And so Mike and I just decided to disband the group altogether.
Right.
Which I think those that wanted their own group kind of that's kind of what they wanted anyway.
They wanted to have their own group, and their group, whatever. I don't know what they're doing these days. I really don't care. However, it just kind of soured us on the entire investigation field. We did meet a lot of people in that business that were nice. The vast majority of them were nice people, I think. But like you said, anytime you have an enticement like money, fame, whatever, it makes people more apt to do things that they that are not correct and kind of deceptive and like you said, fabricating evidence. We ran into that a couple of times.
Yeah,
we ran into people who were exaggerating. You could tell we're exaggerating things, and it just it made it bad for us.
And not only that, but some of the things that just working with other groups as well is obviously it's not a science, right?
Well, and we like to say this show is the TheEoNProject. We're experts of nothing. And we'll be the first ones to tell you that we're not experts on anything. And especially when it comes to the paranormal, there are no experts.
Right.
Because if there were experts, everything would be explained. It's not. It's these people. You could have been investigating the paranormal for 30, 40 years. That doesn't make you an expert because you know about as much as I do,
right,
or as much as anyone.
And if you're trying to document in some way or record in some way, very minute fluctuations in the environment around you, would you be walking around smoking cigarettes and
right.
You know what I mean, just disrupting the environment as you're trying to gather information? It's
sure. And I mean we had people on our own team that you would that would and not to get, and I would never mention anybody's name or anything like that, but to have people who and I honestly believe that there are people who have psychic abilities. I believe that they do. I've seen it. I've seen some unexplainable things that people can do. But also when those same people exaggerate because they know there's a camera there, then you start going, well, why would you feel the need to, if you're a legitimate psychic person, why would you feel the need to? Because
the spirit channeled itself into the person as the camera appeared. It happened. So, we're not trying to dig at it or anything like that. And I think at some point, Mike and I may revisit this whole thing. But if we do, obviously we're going to be a lot more selective with the people that we bring in to help us.
And I mean, because honestly, like I said before, we investigated some things that were legitimately creepy and weird and unexplainable, and then we went to some that were nothing.
Exactly.
And the ones that you think are going to be a big deal or turn out to be not. And then we ran into people who were trying to capitalize on it. There was one particular lady who wanted to turn her house into a restaurant, and she really wanted someone to say that it was haunted so that people would come. And that, whenever you get into that, then you start saying, well, I have to question everything that this person has told me.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway.
So
we just wanted to tell you a little bit about our background. We do have a few years of experience in the field, and so when we discuss the paranormal, we discuss hauntings and things like that. We've been there. We've been in these places and seen what goes on, and
right. And I think, as Mike mentioned too, I mean, we could do a program on. We could sit down. We have to go back and review some of the investigations we went on and some of the things that we came up with. But we could sit down and do a show and kind of briefly recap each one and some of the things that were discovered in those cases, which I think they're interesting.
Yeah, we uncovered a lot of good stuff, and then in a minute we're going to bring on a special guest that's going to discuss her own personal experiences in a haunted location, and she's got some pretty good stuff to say, some pretty good interesting things that have happened.
And with nothing to gain, I might add.
That's an important point. Yeah, nothing to gain. This is a person who's not looking to get a television show or write a book or anything like that, as often is the case. So
I think what we're going to do is we'll get into the next segment. We're going to get our special guest on the line. We'll talk a little bit about her, what she is, what she does, her experiences in life, and in Grandma Betty's haunted house.
Ooh.
So stay tuned. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring our special guest on this evening, and our special guest is actually, she's related to, I don't know if anybody remembers, but a few weeks back we talked with a listener, and a loyal listener named 51 Pan Man.
That was a great episode.
That's the handle he goes by, and he talked a little bit about the Monroe House in Indiana, the haunted house there, but he also talked firsthand knowledge and account of a place that we lovingly call Grandma Betty's house.
I remember Grandma Betty's house. Yes, there was some interesting photographs that emerged.
That's true.
Of that building.
That's correct. That's in Liberty Center, Indiana, I believe. But right now our special guest is actually a relative of 51 Pan Man.
Oh.
And her name is Tanika, and we're going to go to her right now. Tanika, are you there?
I'm here. Hi.
Good, good. I'm glad you could join us. And so, I guess you yourself, obviously, you have a history there as well, being that it's a house that's been in your family, and you know a little bit about it, and you too have had some paranormal experiences that have taken place there. Why don't we just take a step back for a minute and talk a little bit of what you know about the history of the home and any paranormal, not paranormal, but any tragic experiences that may have occurred there over the years.
Well, the home is, of course, my grandmother's, and I grew up in the Liberty Center house. Basically, I spent every weekend and the entire summer in the Liberty Center house, and it was my grandmother's grandfather's home that he built. And he lived there, and he also utilized it as he was the town doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the doctor's house, or also the doctor's office.
Right.
And the house is awesome. There's just amazing history, and it's full of 5 generations of items. As family members have passed, we've never removed the items and just keep layering. So
right.
There's lots of history, and it's very personal, and letters. There's Civil War letters in the home, and but there's train tracks that run behind the house. And one of the really cool things about the barn that I always liked and thought was really amazing as a child was it was marked for hobos as a friendly place.
Right.
Friendly place to stop. Yes, it said that it was the barn was offered up for a place to stay, and my grandmother Nellie, it would have been my great grandmother Nellie, was a good cook, so she was marked as not only a good place to stop, you'll be welcomed, but also she's going to serve up some pretty good food.
Wow, that's
with that
interesting.
being said, yeah, it's really, really pretty neat. And, my Nellie was really active in the church. There's, Liberty Center is pretty small. There's, I think, a gas station, a post office, and two churches. But long ago, there was a high school there. And her husband worked at the high school, and in the summertime, they would rent the upstairs rooms out for, teachers that were, teaching at the high school. And it was always really sad, and it was always talked about when I was a girl that one of the school teachers passed away from fever upstairs, and she wasn't married, and she was young, and all the doctors' ledgers are upstairs. So we used to always kind of joke that she haunted the area. And as a kid, I kind of was like, wasn't so, I guess, I wasn't so much a believer, just always kind of thought that they were, spooky ghost stories. But
right. So definitely as a kid, you didn't, up until that point, you hadn't really experienced anything yet, but you found it interesting nonetheless, and you guys would tell stories about it, stuff like that, right?
Yes, and there's all kinds of really neat. The front room has bench seating, and it wraps around the interior of the front room, and has all of this really ornate woodwork. And the house was always used for town funerals, so everybody would.
It was a doctor's office and a funeral home.
Well, they didn't back then. They didn't do embalming or anything. It was more like they just had, the front room would be filled full of flowers. Everybody would bring flowers, and then the casket would lay right there on the, bench seat.
So they would open their home to people that wanted to basically say goodbye to their to their beloved, relatives and things of that sort. So they'd open their home to them, and they'd come in there. Yeah.
Yes, and then the piano always would be out on the front porch, and the service would actually take place usually in the front yard and up on the front porch. It was just the town jewel. The house was, just with all of the ornate, work and outside. So yeah, it was used, and we always, Grandma would always like to pull out the pictures because it would be kind of, they're on cardstock, so fairly old, but just picture after picture of, it's kind of morbid, but yeah, they would take pictures at the funeral of the dead and the caskets, and so it was
Wow.
true, and yeah.
So as a young person living in that house and staying, you didn't live in the house, but you were there quite often. Is that correct?
I spent the summer probably almost every day in the summer.
So growing up there, and as you said before, you heard stories, ghost stories and spooky stories. Like a lot of things, sometimes a lot of stories begin with a kernel of truth to them, even if it's a legend or something along those lines. So a lot of times there'll be an actual event that sparks a story, and then obviously the story gets bigger and more embellished. But so as a young person there, what kind of things, what led up to the beginning of whatever type of paranormal activity you may have witnessed?
Well, my grandmother was a snowbird, so she always traveled to Florida for the wintertime, and we would close up the Liberty Center house in the wintertime and, winterize it. And then when she would come back in April, I would open the house, always would open the house and give it a really good cleaning and, get it ready for, their trip back to Indiana. And I probably started realizing it in my 20s that there was something going on. Right. and I really wouldn't, at first, I always kind of had thought, maybe it's a friendly entity, my family, I'd spoken about some things that had occurred to me at the house, and, I would, my grandmother and my aunt was always very reassuring. They were like, it's always been a family house. If something's going on, it's surely, a spirit from, the family, and so there would be things. The upstairs was always more active than the lower level of the house. So I would be in the house cleaning by myself, because everybody was still making their way from Florida. And as dusk, the sun would set, it would start to pick up. And things would happen. I could hear, there's a creak in the hallway upstairs, and I know the sound because I've walked the hallway a million times. And when you put your foot there, it makes a very distinct, someone's walking there. It's a walking creak. And I would hear that downstairs, and I would be like, there's no way that anybody is walking upstairs. I'm the only one here.
So you're the you're the only one in the house, and obviously, it's that sound only occurs when something or someone is walking in that particular area.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would always get this sense of uneasiness. You'd have this like, ooh, that's a little, that's a little something, but I would kind of ignore it, go about my things. And then, I would kind of tell myself in my mind to be at ease with things. I'd be like, well, I'm taking care of the house. I'm sure whoever, it is that's moving around up there, would appreciate that. And, they're not going to cause me any issues. And, I'd speed up my cleaning and try to hightail it out of there pretty quickly. But one of the most horrifying moments, and I remember, telling my grandmother about it, is actually my son Elliot was about 5, and we were prepping the house, and he was downstairs watching, television, and I was cleaning about downstairs, and Liberty Center is a quiet area. There's not a whole lot of, really crazy sounds from outside that, that you would hear and startle you. But we were sitting downstairs, and it sounded like a locomotive train went barreling through the upstairs, and it, startled me and my son. And my son looked at me and he was like, Mom, what is that? And I just was like, I'm not really sure, but we're gonna, go ahead and head home now.
Wow.
We were out of there, and the next day I went and the TV was all fuzzed out, and everything was fine, nothing was disturbed upstairs, but definitely like a startling sound, and it's like, well, that's our departure. We're gonna
when you say that
head out.
When you say that there was a sound like a locomotive, was it something like just like a series of loud noises, or something moving around, or what kind of noise was it?
It was an audible. It sounded like when a train is whizzing past your windows and the windows rattle. It was the TV glitched when that happened. Like the TV, we had a DVD in and the TV started glitching, so it was just,
some sort of burst of energy, perhaps.
Hear it. Yeah, physically hear it. And, it disrupted, the television, and it was very noticeable. It wasn't like a subtle sound. And it's like, well, we're going to go ahead.
This is our cue to go.
So some of the pictures I had posted before that that 51 Pan Man had provided us, and that I think you provided as well. There's the boy, which I think is your son, is laying on the couch, and you've obviously taken a picture of him. And in the background, there is some very interesting, for lack of a better term, faces, if you will. Now, obviously, I believe you're the one that took the photograph. At what point did you notice there was something strange going on there? And at the moment that you took the picture, was actually anything occurring at that time, at the time of the photograph being taken?
Well, actually, at the time, it was a very peaceful moment. Now, the dining room, it's in the dining room is where the faces are showing. And it was actually a really peaceful moment. Elliot was I was caregiving for my grandmother and aunt at the time, full time. And surprisingly, we hired out help. Of course, I couldn't give out 24-hour care. And we actually paid really well, in cash. And, I think it's like $17 an hour just to kind of sit there and hang out with the ladies. And
be careful. The IRS is listening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I hope you did the proper forms.
We did 99 forms. So
good.
We're covered.
All right.
Yes. But I couldn't keep third shift help. Could not. And, people I would always get phone calls, in the middle of the night, and they'd be like, we're not going to stay. We're actually quitting.
Wow.
So I could not retain help at night.
What kind of things were they saying? Like, what was the reasoning for them not wanting to stay?
Well, one of the ones, and I actually, it's a pretty scary story actually. At the time, I was more angry, to tell you the truth. But I had a lady, and she had always done day shift work for me, and I paid extra for the night shift actually because I wanted to spend some time at home at night in my home. And she finally was like, I think I'm going to stay. I want to stay tonight. I want to try the third shift. And I said, perfect. We'll set you up downstairs in the living room. And, I set up the television for her. And I said, if you need anything, I was leaving and she was relieving me. I said, if you need anything, give me a call. And I started on my way home. And about 5 minutes out, I get a panicked. I mean, I dispatched at the sheriff's department for years. So, when someone calls you and you can hear that they're sincerely panicked, she was sincerely panicked on the phone. And she was like, Tanika, somebody is upstairs here in the house. She said, someone is upstairs here. There's someone in the house. She says, I'm in the kitchen. She says, I'm petrified. I can't move. You've got to come back here. And I said, well, how do you know someone's in the house? And she said, I could hear the doors shut upstairs. Of course, my grandmother and aunt were bedbound downstairs. Nobody would go upstairs.
Yeah, so it wasn't them wandering around up there, that's for sure.
No, bedbound. Hadn't been up in the upstairs area for probably over 2 years.
Wow.
So I turned around, and actually I knew immediately that it was, some sort of paranormal activity, and I was pissed. And so when I got to the driveway, I had made up my mind that when I pulled in, I was just going to go, walk in and immediately go upstairs and chew whatever it was out. So I get into the house and I see Pam, and she is in the kitchen panicked. And I said, just wait right here. I said, I'm going to go upstairs and check upstairs. And immediately into the landing, you turn to the right and the staircase wraps around to upstairs. So I flipped on the light switch and went upstairs. And as soon as my feet stepped to the very top of the stairs, all of the hair on the back of my neck and body, everything just went on end. And I still was like, I'm not going to be intimidated by this. So I went into each room and flipped on every single light, and then I propped all of the doors open. I was like, you can't shut doors if there's something physically, against the door, propping the door open. And, checked everything and came downstairs and left all the lights on. And I said, Pam, I said, I think it's fine. I said, maybe it's an old window, blew
like
the
a
door
draft
shut.
or something.
Yeah, of course, we actually, for security of the house, we nail all the window seals shut. So not only are they closed, but we don't want anybody to be able to push them up. So we nail them shut. So I knew that it wasn't a draft, but I was trying to relax her.
Right.
And I said, I'm just going to wait here with you. I said, we'll get through this. I said, I'm just going to sit here with you for a few hours and, so you're not by yourself and you're comfortable. And as we were sitting there in the front room, I could hear the movement coming, from upstairs. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be bad because I can hear it and she can hear it.
Right.
And I, of course, would not be like, oh, you're crazy. It's very audible, and so as we were sitting there, the movement would come down the stairs and you could hear the sound of it coming down the stairs. So I would almost turn around in my chair and look back at the stairwell, and the movement would stop, and then I would face forward, and then the movement would continue. So it would get braver, I would say, is what I would think about it, because I really tried to keep the downstairs, free, kind of like you guys can have the upstairs, whatever you want to do.
You just don't want it to come downstairs.
I need the downstairs.
Right.
Yeah, I need the downstairs.
Huh.
And we were sitting there, and a door slammed shut upstairs, and I just turned around and I looked at Pam and I said, I think the ladies are going to be okay here tonight by themselves.
Why don't we all go?
I said, we're just going to go ahead and, call it a night. And we both laughed. My poor grandmother and aunt, we left them. We abandoned them.
Wow.
Actually, that was their ploy to get you to leave so they could throw a huge party.
They could have a party there.
And they were probably ripping it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
the scary thing about when, I've always had that feeling as even a child is when you're leaving the house, you can feel something. I always say someone, but something looking at you. You can feel it, you can feel it. Someone is watching, and it's not my grandmother and aunt who are bedbound, but somebody is watching you leave. And I never turn around to look at the house when I am focused.
So what I've noticed just in the brief time that we've been talking is that it seems like there was a little bit of a shift from when you were a young person and you were a kid being there, that it was and all the accounts that were relayed to you were that it was friendly or whatever it may be. It's kind of turned a little bit to being more of a malevolent feeling, or a feeling of dread, or it's turned a little bit, right?
Absolutely. And I think, to tell you the truth, I think I actually spoke to a pastor, which, is uncomfortable. Most people don't.
Right. Sure. They don't want to hear that.
Pastor. Yeah. I was actually intimidated enough. I was like, I need some professional help. I can't keep help here. It was physically exhausting for me to go into the house every day. The feeling was overwhelming. It got more and more brave, and I was like, what can I do? And I think what happened is, and when I look back on it, is my grandmother and aunt. Of course, it's very an emotional moment when people are terminally ill,
right,
and they're in the process of passing. Everybody that comes into the house to visit, to see the doctors, the nurses, there's all of this emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And, as death approaches, people, want to come to some sort of terms spiritually,
Sure.
And my aunt really knew that she was going to pass, and she wanted a pastor to come in. She had worries about her immortality afterwards, and I think it pissed him off.
No.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that it was upset. I hired a lot of people that were religious. They spent time in prayer with both my grandmother and my aunt, and the majority of my family on that side, besides my grandmother and aunt, are atheists. So I think that it was like, hey, what's going on here? This is our place, and you're bringing all of this positive energy in here, and I think they were not appreciative.
I also wonder. I wonder, and this may have actually happened without your knowledge. Sometimes when people hear that there's a haunted building, for lack of a better term, or a haunted residence, they may try some sort of half-hearted attempt to clear whatever entities may be there. And that, like I said, that may have happened without your knowledge. And sometimes when someone does that, it actually angers whatever may be in residence there, and that may be what happened. That may be the cause of the change.
Well, and it absolutely was. And I did something similar to that. My grandmother would not allow me to bring a pastor in. I really wanted a pastor to come in because my staff was worried. The people that I had there were worried. And speaking to my pastor, he said, there's certain things you can do. And, spiritually, it was, you almost have to have faith in yourself to have the ability to do it, so
Sure.
it's kind of a mind trip in its own way. But he says, you can give off a presence and be territorial about certain areas and I guess radiate a light is what he described it as. So he suggested, and he said, you can use cooking oil. He says, a lot of people think that, you have to use like holy oil. And he's like, no, if you pray with it and you're serious about it, you can set up boundaries. So the downstairs area, I left him the upstairs, but the downstairs area, I literally went through every room, burned sage, said, this is our area, rubbed oil on the window seals. And it was good for actually a while there. It worked. And it slowly deteriorated.
Wow.
It started to get really, I remember, sitting there. It was at the changeover again. I always would come in early for changeover to kind of, pass people on. And we were sitting there, and there was this candle in a mason jar, with sand, and the candle was in the middle of it, and sitting there having a conversation, and the candle is, smack in the middle of the table. It didn't flip off. It's not a crooked table, and the candle and the mason jar went right off the table. And
wow.
I'm looking at the girls, and I'm just like, you guys are free to go. I'm gonna get the vacuum and vacuum this up. And it's kind of like, they know, I know, but nobody acknowledges.
So you're basically apologizing for a spirit for sorry about that, like it's a little kid that broke something, right?
Yes, and you try to, and then when you leave, of course, clearly the staff figured out pretty quick it was haunted, and I would share with them some advice that I had gotten from the pastor. I said, when you leave the house, I said you don't want something following you or attaching to you. I said you got to really cleanse, yourself of that, and say, no, you can't come with me in there. You can't follow me to my home. And it got very aggressive, got very pissed off when it figured out that we had some tools to, work efficiently there with it.
So was there ever a time where there was anybody that was injured, any kind of physical attack on a person, anything like that?
It had never, I was always really fairly pleased that it had never touched anybody. And unfortunately, I was touched. And
wow, what happened?
Oh my goodness, it was terrible. I would always, the night shift, and, this is just, it was petrifying for me. I would, I would talk to the pastor. I said, it really cooks up, about 3 a.m., I would say. I said, I would like to, I said, I try to get to sleep before 3 a.m. so I can sleep through it. And he said, well, 3 a.m. is, he says, that's, there's a reason behind that, of course, which it never occurred to me. And he says, 3 a.m. is the witching hour, because you have the Trinity with the three. And he says, it's the darkest part of the night. And it gave me chills actually describing that, because it was so consistently, right at that time. And so I would try really hard to get to sleep before that. And it was actually during a winter storm, and I had been stuck in the house for quite some time. People couldn't get to the house. The roads were so bad. And I was kind of losing territory downstairs. It was finally I gave the dining room up to them and tacked up blankets, across the entryways. And, it was okay, they got the dining room, we have the living room, the downstairs bedroom and kitchen and the bathroom.
So you were like the Neville Chamberlain of paranormal events.
You're appeasing him, yes.
You were giving up swaths of land to appease him, yeah.
Yes, I was like, okay, you guys got that, you won.
Wow. There's quite a battle going on here.
Yeah.
It was very, it was. And, it was late at night, and I would sleep in the front room, actually where the bench seat is, where I took that picture of Elliot. And I could hear the movement coming down the stairs. And I would try to stay calm and not, because I feel like it almost feeds off your emotion.
Sure.
It can tell that you're intimidated. So I would try very hard not to be fearful or intimidated, and I would just tell myself, it can't physically do anything to me, it can't touch me, it can't, I'll be fine. Well, all kinds of movement going on in the dining room. I could hear, the china cabinet has dishes in it. I could hear, the dishes in the china cabinet, movement in the dishes. And I got a little panicked, and I was like, well, I kind of reverted to my childhood. I was like, I think I'm going to sleep in Grandma's room.
Right.
right. and I mean, I feel like I'm fairly tough, like I, served, and like I was in the Marines, and worked, it's like I'm,
Not
don't get
not usually
startled
scared
very
easily, right? Right.
Yes, no, and so I went into my grandma's room and went to sleep on the Davenport, is what Grandma would call it, with the couch. And as I was laying there, I could hear it getting closer. And I was like, oh, shoot, we're going to lose the front living room. And I was trying to close my eyes and, just closing my eyes, trying to stay focused. It's like, I just need to get to sleep, And 3 fingers pressed firmly against my cheek. I was laying on my side on the couch, and the most petrified I have ever been in my entire life. It was brief, and I was like, I just kept telling myself in my mind, I was like, I have to open my eyes. I have to find the courage to open my eyes, get my boots on, and get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled with that for quite some time. Like I was paralyzed almost, could not move with fear. So
wow. So it touched your face. So
it's very distinct.
Yeah.
Not just like a touch.
Like a forceful push.
Could feel the 3 fingers, like someone's index, middle, and ring finger pressed against my cheek. Like, yeah, I'm touching you, and you know it, and I know it, and you can feel it. It was could feel it.
Wow,
yeah.
What did you do after that?
I struggled
Yeah.
it felt like an eternity. I'm not really sure, but I struggled for a significant amount of time to opened my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, I just went to a sitting position. My shoes, were at the floor of my feet. I focused directly on my shoes, put those shoes on, and beelined for the exit.
Once again, abandoning your grandmother.
Yes, isn't that terrible? And I felt terrible.
I'm surprised you didn't put her on
right?
your back and fireman carry her out of there.
Well, she probably would have. She was a little stubborn. She was always kind of like, if they're here, they're welcome here. She's like,
wow.
I take comfort in that. And Grandma was, was religious, and I would try to be like, well, kind of scripture says, Grandma, and she was like, oh, rubbish. She was real stubborn about it, but she knew the house was haunted. She knew it. And I think she had just she was 97. She had been dealing with it for ever, and she didn't you didn't talk about it. You might talk about it, and it would seem like it was joking, but really, it was. They knew it was haunted, and they just dealt with it.
Right.
They just lived with it.
So, I mean, unfortunately, that went by fast. We're kind of running out of time, so I kind of want to I know you have a lot more to discuss, and maybe at a later time we can talk about some more things. But just to kind of wrap it up a little, so obviously, Grandma and the aunt passed away in the home, or were they in the home when they did they? Was it in the home
did.
when they? Okay.
They both passed in the home.
Okay, and then after that, it had been not abandoned, but nobody's been living there for quite some time, or has anybody living there afterwards?
It's everything stays. It's a family home.
Yep.
So we own it equally between my cousins and my uncle. It's left as a family home. So it's open for the summer for whoever wants to come and stay.
Oh, okay. So there's not someone living there full time. It's basically more of a seasonal home.
Yes. People, the summer, people are there in the summer, and I personally have been back once. So, for such a a home that was so important and pivotal in my life, I'm always like, I have fond memories of that home, and I can't go back.
Have you?
to it.
And
So
you seem to be some. Obviously, you're very familiar with the paranormal, and just by your own experiences, probably a lot more than most people. But have you? Has there been any type of attempt to investigate or document any of the activity there by a group or any photography or video or anything like that?
Well, no, and see, I think, I've always, some of me does not want to hear what is being said.
Right.
I have no doubt whatsoever if it was investigated, it would probably be the holy grail of investigations. But I think, Grandma was, you wouldn't bring it up that the house was haunted, because people might think that you're crazy or you're kooky or you're whatnot. And my cousins, even though they know that it's haunted, they kind of are like, well, it's kind of, our business. We don't like to, it's not something, they want to acknowledge.
Well, they don't want any publicity or anything like that out of it.
No, and so I kind of, I stopped taking pictures in the home after that.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. Yeah, sure.
I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to, have to come to terms with that. It's a reality. Like it's true. It's legitimate. It's haunted. There's something there, and I can physically see it. I've been touched, and we lived with it. We lived with it for a long time.
So here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do after the show's over today. Mike and I are gonna get in. We're gonna rent a van.
I'm gonna start driving.
We're gonna rent one of those old foreign Econo lines with the tinted windows and the little decorations on the inside, and we're gonna drive out there.
We're gonna get some snacks.
Yep,
we'll drive
some
out
snack, lots of beef jerky, and maybe some road suds.
Yeah,
and we'll be out there. No, but seriously, I mean, if that's ever something that you did want to do or your family wanted to do in terms of having an established group come in there and do an invest. So as I was saying, I mean, Mike and I could probably reach out to some of our connections if that ever was an option or something that you guys wanted to do, and probably get you in touch with somebody out your way, because I know that there's groups all over the country that do that sort of thing. So
there's plenty of groups, but yeah, like you said, you might not even want to know at this point, and you're not. One of the things that's different in your case is you're not looking to see if it's haunted. You know that it's haunted, so it may be something that you're not even interested in documenting it.
Yep.
It's the only interest that I would kind of have from it is I'm kind of, I struggled for after, and I don't know if it was, caretaker exhaustion or what, but after, I was finished there at that house, it was an oppressive feeling that stayed with me for some time. So, I've always been interested to, is it demonic? Is there such a thing as a friendly spirit? You're just kind of, so it would be interesting.
There's definitely more questions than answers,
family on board.
For sure.
Right,
yeah.
Definitely.
So, all right. So let's, well, once again, we really appreciate you coming on.
This has been a great show. And thank you very much for your time. It was very enlightening and extremely interesting for sure.
Yeah. Well, obviously we'll always keep updated too. And what I'll do is I'll repost some of the pictures that you sent, that got sent before. I'll put those up again so people that are listening can take a look and see exactly what we were kind of talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciated having you on the show.
Oh, I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
All right, Tanika, take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was Miss Tanika calling from Indiana.
Yeah, that was a great, and the funny thing that I've got from that was, and it started off very innocuously.
Yeah.
And she didn't make a big deal out of it because this is her life and everything. But I don't know if you noticed that there was a marked change. It went from not just stories to full blown. I'm battling with something here. I have to section off my home and make bunkers and whatnot and secede territory. And,
exactly.
Like you had mentioned. So very interesting place. That's hitherto unexplored, basically.
Yeah,
but no one has been in there to kind of document any of this.
Exactly,
stuff.
And that that kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier in terms of investigations and things of that sort. So,
well, yeah, like we discussed earlier, our foray into the paranormal. So many times you meet people who they have an ulterior motive for claiming that their building, their business, or whatever is haunted. So,
right.
Whether it's publicity or money or whatever the case may be. But in this case, this is a person who's not looking for any type of notoriety and actually is hesitant to do anything at all. You're much more likely to believe that
exactly
than you would somebody who has these sensationalistic claims because they have, like I said, ulterior motives.
That's true. Yeah. No,
Well, anyway, that was a great episode.
Good follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and one of the things we do enjoy doing on the program is we like talking to other people. Mike and I, we banter back and forth, but it's good to have different perspectives, different stories. So if you are somebody out there that's had a paranormal experience or any kind of interesting or mysterious event in your life, we'd obviously love to talk to you, and you can reach us at TheEoNProject@Yahoo.com. That's TheEoNProject@Yahoo.com for a direct email.
Yep.
And I think we can go right to I think the website links to that also.
The website will link right to that, and you can message us on Twitter or Facebook. We're on both of those things. You can get links to that on our website, which is TheEoNProject.com.
That's correct. And within the next few weeks, I think we're actually going to have another live in-studio guest on the next episode, if that all pans out. And then we're looking at doing a multi-part show.
An arc.
Yeah, a 2 or 3 part show of one particular storyline that we're going to talk about. So, and so Mike, just for future reference too, I don't know if you want to go to the Asian massage parlor, let me know.
I don't know that I want to go there now.
And,
now that I know there's a cloven-hoofed creature that's wandering around there giving massages. I don't know.
The massage wasn't bad. I just couldn't shake the image of the claws out of my head.
I don't think I want to go there.
All right. That's our show. So just remember, until next time, the truth exists. Believe it.